Welcome everybody to the Healing Place podcast. I'm your host, Teri Wellbrock, and just thrilled today to have with me Chuck Rosenthal, and he's author of so many books, and we are going to talk to him about, gosh, yeah, the inspiration behind these books that he's put out into the universe. We were also just talking. He was professor, and as I was reading through his bio and learning more about him before coming into this interview, just reading the universities that you had attended and the degrees that you have. Like, I'm such a student of life. I also have a degree in psychology, but I love learning. Like, to me, it's so amazing. So I just think
The
it's
number one pleasure, says Aristotle, learning.
yeah,
And,
yeah.
and there's a lot of pleasures out there, so learning can top it off. That's yeah, I love it too. And I mean, I read 5 or 6 books at once because I have a short attention span, but a good memory. So
Uh,
I I uh, I love reading and learning and discovering, and that's kind of what Beatrice in, of course, Awake Forever and Sweet Unrest is about. Discovering and imagination in the heart, and I'm a big believer in that. I want reality. I can look out my window.
oh,
I don't, in fact, really now I can. I can see the burn area around me. But I like to make things up and make gorgeous things happen. And that's that's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. And all those years, and teaching can be that way too, because you can have those kids in front of you and you see that thing happening inside them. When they open up, you can see it in their eyes, and you made a connection, and and you changed some lives, and I hope for the better. Well, I have students, right, that are 50 years old now. Right, I had them a long time ago, and they still stay in touch with me. And one one even published me. Sees
oh
became a
my
publisher
gosh.
and published me, which was really sweet. Um, so
Yeah, and I taught much younger ages. I taught it from preschool all the way up through eighth grade,
well,
and
those are great
I
period, seventh, eighth grade, boy.
oh yeah,
That's
I
something.
love
Things are
those light
happening.
bulb moments,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, you can just see the light bulb go off, and to me, that was just part of that joy
That's
of
satisfying. That's a satisfying thing. Yeah.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and it's hard work too, because kids resist, and a lot of times teaching, you have to make a judgment. You have to walk away and say, okay, okay, that's so, but that's it. College is easier to teach than kindergarten through eighth grade.
Right.
But yeah, because they're
Well, they're invested
no,
financially.
in the modern era, it's a little more difficult to understand, because they and I had to learn, say, to permit my students to have their computers and phones in class. I just eventually said, okay, I'm not I'm not policing this anymore. You just do what you want. As long as if I call on you, you can answer the question. I'm fine. And it worked. It worked. Um, give them
Wow.
give them a big pasture. That's what my my Zen mentor would say. Give them a big pasture, and they'll come to the fence.
Yeah, especially those that are really there to learn,
Oh
right?
yes, right.
Yeah.
And
We
that's
have a daughter, our youngest. I have three kids. My youngest is becoming a pilot, and so she's in a
terrific.
university in Florida. And
Mhm.
every time I talk to her, I'm like, "What are you doing, kiddo?" And she's like, "Homework, studying, learning." Like, this kid is so dedicated. We even are like, "Well, go out and do something, go have fun, go do something." She's like, "No," she's very like she's just self-driven. She
Very
wants to
focused.
learn. She loves learning. She wants to fly. So she's doing everything she can to make it happen.
Well, I have one child who was a high school dropout, age 16. And so as an educated person, and my life partner is an educated person as well, that was like, okay, no, we're gonna accept that and give her what we can. And but same thing, she moved to Sydney, Australia when she was 22 years old and stayed there and became a performing artist. And boy, she learned a lot of things, and I've learned from her. Um, so you know, she wasn't a book learner, but became one. Actually, she turned out she loved learning, and she you know she got a master's degree in performing arts in the end, and from Sydney, you know, University. So I,
I love that
I
story.
don't follow Deepak Chopra, but once I read something about him, about his son, and he said all he did was like play video games, and he said, "Well, I just left him alone," and he turned out okay.
Yeah. It's so true. Like I tell people, I joke around. I have an undergrad in psychology, but I tell them I have a PhD in street cred because I had so much trauma history, right? That I
Yeah,
learned so much about trauma recovery just through my own research and my own survival. That I jokingly say I have a PhD in trauma survival. So
I agree with that, and I think a, a lot of us can learn from that. A lot of that are doing this now. I mean, it's a traumatic world,
yeah,
and just having been through the fires here, it's threatening, and you see how fragile you
yeah,
are and things are, and you learn to be resilient. And I guess that's a major theme, part of the thematics of Awake Forever is that Beatrice, who's the necessary core of all this, all as fascinating as Byron and Shelley and Keats and Coleridge can be, she's the person who has to go there and learn from them and learn from scratch because she hadn't read them. Um, but well, she travels 200 years into the past and meets them. Um, and that's all fun and fascinating stuff. And this was the hardest book I've ever written. It took me the longest to write it. And it's the shortest book I've ever written as well. But boy, that's a beautiful thing. And you talk about inspiration, but when you're writing a novel, and that's what I do. I like to write long things. I live with a poet for a long time. Talk about inspiring. That happens all the time to me in my house, so that's great. But you can live in that world, and I can have conversations between see Beatrice and Byron or Beatrice and Keats and imagine that, and never get to the page. But boy, is it fun to be spend your time thinking about that and not you know the not the again the trauma or the frailties. Uh, so it, you know,
yeah,
and I don't know. I'm I would say I'm a happy person, but I'm pretty satisfied. I see you have
yeah.
happy behind you there, so that's
Oh
encouraging.
yeah, my choose
Should
happy.
probably I should probably get a license plate with that to remind me. Uh, to,
Now, do you write as a writer? And I'm asking only because I'm a writer. Um, take your own life experiences and put them into your characters and or like I people watch a lot, right? Like today I was out to lunch with someone and she
yeah,
was said, "I'm so sorry I have to take this call." And so I said, "Oh my gosh, no problem." And she left. And then she came back and she said, "I'm so sorry that I left you here." And I said, "No, I love it. Like I love absorbing. I love watching and taking it in and it just becomes part of the storytelling I do."
yeah. I don't know. I try not to uh, model a character on me, although in my memoir I obviously had to. I had to reinvent myself as a teenager. But I you look around, and the people around you become characters and infuse your characters. And I don't necessarily. Sometimes I don't know. I have in a book called the Legend of La Diosa. One of the characters is vaguely based on me. Takes a motorcycle trip across the country with a young woman, and she has her own motorcycle, and she's based on a woman I did that with. Um, so there you go.
Yeah.
And a fascinating uh, person. But with you're dealing with Keats and Shelley and Byron, I don't need to do that work. They're already there. Their lives. I read biographies of all of them and Coleridge, and I read all their work. And so it is my brother, who's a painter in New York City. It says you study and study and study, and then when you sit down, it comes out your hands. You don't paint with your head, you paint with your hands. And that inspired me. And that's what I do when I can go to that blank page. Recently, I've been writing longhand. I used to write on a computer and then on a laptop, and then I moved back to writing longhand. But it can just, flow. It just comes. And when I'm nervous about what to write, I just say, just write. It's practice. I'm not, nobody's here. Nobody's looking at me. I can throw it out when I'm done. Just write it. Just write it. And that's fun. That's fun. Uh, and so I've been doing that for a long time. I don't know. I guess I wrote my first short story when I was in third grade. So, you know, you never know. I look back at say my daughter's life, and now I can look back and say, oh, of course, this is what she does now. But I didn't know that for 20 years what she was going to become. So you can let it happen, and it can happen to you, and it can happen inside you, and you have to be ready to change, be ready to accept change, and make good, and right. So yeah, I
Yeah.
don't have very many evil characters in my book. I just thought of that now. I never really thought about it. But
I love it.
writing
I
about
love
Satan, but I seem to never pick up on him.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, I know for me, shoot, I was going to say something and then it just went right out of my head. Oh, when you were talking about writing, yeah, longhand, like journaling is
Yeah,
so important for me because uh I don't like I stopped being so hard on myself and stopped editing myself while
right.
writing and just
Oh,
doing that free flow, right? Yeah,
big
that's so
step,
beautiful.
big step. You can edit later.
Yeah.
First, write, then edit. Don't edit, then write, because then you won't write. If you're editing
Yeah.
ahead of time, you can,
Because then
yeah,
that's pulling your head in, taking it out of your hands, right?
right, yeah,
Yeah.
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 So it, yeah. And you can always, and it does. And one thing I like about writing longhand is when I decide to type it down, I must rewrite. There's a way
Oh, yeah.
must rewrite. I must have to look at that. And sometimes I can't read what I wrote. And that's really interesting. I said, hey, you wrote this. What were you
What the
saying?
heck are you
But
saying?
yeah, and so and I think I found that's a good practice because there's a way in which sometimes, particularly I wrote on the typewriter in 70s, 80s, but it feels unchangeable. There it is. Now what? It's down there, it's on the page, and there it is. And the nice thing about longhand is, the inconvenience is you think of something, oh my God, I should have done that and 20 pages ago, and I didn't do it. So you got to make a note for yourself to go back, because I never go back. I've finished the book, but I have notes then, right? And that's right. That comes later. Um, and it's exciting, and I think I write about exciting people or animals, horses.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah, that you have because I was reading through the titles of your books and um I love the idea of writing from an animal's like almost an animal's perspective, really.
Well, 10,000 Heavens, which is a novel, is about a mare, my first horse, and it's mostly written from her point of view.
Oh,
And it's spent a lot of time looking at horses and thinking of figuring out what they meant when they did that. And she was a very difficult horse, a really difficult horse. It took me 10 years to touch her chest.
oh,
She was, well, talk about resilience. She was obviously mistreated as a young horse. I got her at age 6, and she was a wild horse. And many people just said, "Have you ridden a horse before?" I said, "No, this is my first horse." They said, "You're crazy. You shouldn't be on this horse." But I learned so much. I learned so much from that horse, and the patience that it took for me to sometimes just stand around with the horse, but then touch her where she likes, and then you can touch her where she doesn't like it. and it take things long. So there, yeah, that's fascinating. And I had a lot of, I wanted to write when I was in philosophy graduate school, working for my on my PhD. I wanted to write a dissertation on animal. This is in the mid '70s on animal cognition, animal consciousness. And back then they said, no, that we can't write about that. One, they aren't conscious, and two, and you should write about Leibniz or Plato or somebody. And so that's when I left. Uh, I and decided to become a fiction writer for what, and started writing every day. And I'm resilient, right? Because I think three and a half, four novels were not I wrote that were not published or picked up, and I just kept writing. And it's like, right, you must feel it. You're working on it, you get better. You do
Yeah,
it every day. You do it every day, and you get better, and you learn from what's around you, and you learn from people around you, but you also learn from what you're reading around you. At least I did. I taught school all those years, so um,
right.
I could teach Flannery O'Connor 20 times and learn something different every time. So that's, so some people you can reread and some people you don't reread. I don't know. There's only so
Yes,
much time in your
exactly.
life. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I've been invited to participate in three different books written by multiple authors and so I'm a contributing author. And it's
Uh,
been amazing because one's a children's book, one's a spiritual book, and then one was a book on caregiving. Um, and so to me, yeah, like what a learning experience to just be able again to just have a goal and sit down and put pen to paper um, and let it. Yeah, when you said that about what your brother said about it coming out your hands, I was like, that's it. Sometimes I'll read something after I've written and then I go, did I write that? Where'd that come
well,
from?
that happens to me a lot, but then usually I'm happy. I just,
Yeah, yeah,
oh wow, that was okay.
yeah. Look at that.
Will I
I
ever
did
be able
that.
to do it again? That's the next question, of course, when you're not. I know that writing Awake, it's got some attention, and I've been promoting it, and it's very hard to write a book while you're publishing a book. And so I took some time to before I could sit down again and write. Um, but I'm doing it. I don't know. Again, I don't know what I'm doing, but
Yeah,
that's the other. You can find out. You can find out, and again, sometimes it might take you 40 or 50 pages to find out what you're really writing about. And you got to have the strength to set that work aside and move on from there and set it aside. And you can't be overly attached to your own work, because then you're piling up a bunch of meaning inside you that just discover what you have to say. Don't, you want to communicate, pick up your phone or send a card. Tell your story, tell your story, and discover your characters. And
that's
usually you do.
brilliant.
Yeah. Um,
Wow. Yeah, I promised my dad. So my dad died in 2009, and I promised him on his deathbed that I would write his memoir.
oh,
Um,
terrific.
and here we are, 16 years later. But I have been writing it, but I've decided because there were so many empty spots and I didn't want to make things up, I'm writing it as a fiction. And that way it gives me, um, I guess, license to then make things up and let it
Well,
flow and let it
right.
become what it wants to be.
And his essence, and you can
Yeah,
portray it in any number. You can portray it in any number of ways. And so you're not trying to exactly who he is, but you're recreating him. Um, my father is a character, and my mother is too. In my first three published novels, the Loop novels, and oh, he he's a I don't know. He was a way more complex person than the character I wrote about him, because he was a big tough man. But so that's his. I can't. That's it. That's his memoir. He's in.
yeah. Oh,
He's in
yeah.
that. He's in that book. And he,
Uh,
you know, and he fought in the Pacific and um, was a boxer and a horseshoe player. He's one great guy, my mother was an amazing person in many ways. An intellect. My father was not, and my mother was. Didn't go to college. It was the Depression, right? You didn't go to college back then. You went to work.
Yeah.
And but very, amazing woman. Unfortunately, died at age 56
Oh,
from a
yeah.
brain tumor, and didn't even get to see grandkids or that was, but there she is. I can find her. I can pick.
Oh,
I can get the book and pick it up, and it's better than a photograph. Although I do have her wedding picture. I do have those things, but yeah, you you
well,
want to,
you've given her voice, right? A voice that carries on forever.
yeah, yeah. Um,
Yeah.
that's people talk about ghosts, but right, yeah, those memories of my mother are inside me, or my father, and some other people too.
Right, right,
My
exactly.
sister, who was a young genius, my older sister, who teaches in Pittsburgh, age 75, is going for her PhD now, age 75. And that's
I
because she was that little girl I wrote about in 1980 when I was writing in 82. She an amazing person, and so you
yeah,
fan.
I'm
But
telling
yeah,
you. I
yeah.
tell folks all the time that I'm going to go get my PhD one of these days, and I'm turning 59 and on the 14th of this month. So
Well,
I'll probably be her. I'll probably be there at 75 getting that PhD.
you can, you just do it. You're
Yeah.
smart. You're smart. You can do it. It's just work. And it's different, when you say what you want about education inhibiting yours, you, but it gave me the opportunities, particularly when I went to the University of Utah for my literature PhD. I had to read 300 books for my
Wow.
I was waking up every day and reading a book. I was getting up at, I don't know, dawn and reading a book before noon because I had to read a lot of books, and that was really good for me. Now I couldn't tell you what a handful of dust, what the plot was in it, but if I picked it up, I'd remember. If
Yeah.
I picked it up, I'd remember. Um, so that was good. That was a wonderful thing about being educated, but it is something you have to fight off because education is conservative, and there's a really good reason for that because it's about discipline and disciplining your mind, and so you've got to let that happen, but don't let it make you boring. Like, right? Keep your mind alive, and there's lots of ways to do that, right?
Yeah.
So I was an athlete, so I could at least when I was young, you see, I could play tennis or I played basketball in college. I could play, or and I got to California. I learned to surf, and excuse me, but just there are things to keep you active and alive and to fascinate you and to absorb you, right?
Right.
And that's what eventually what horseback riding did for me was to training a horse was taught me a lot. Um, so it doesn't have to happen in words or books, as right as you found out, you believe, and a lot of very smart uh, people that didn't go to college, like my youngest brother. He became a musician. He played the guitar every day, all day. So that's an accomplishment.
Heck
Um,
yeah. I've
yeah,
always told my kids, like, I don't care what you do, follow your heart, your passion,
right,
what sets your soul on fire, right?
right.
Yeah.
What's in your heart? What are your dreams? Do it. and
Yeah.
and and then if you're right, you learn that, right, as a parent is what you do is let them do it, and if what it takes is buying them a guitar or uh, which I did. I put my daughter on a horse and she nope, didn't work, but she picked up a guitar and okay, So now she can play the sitar. That's pretty wonderful. So right. You did it. Do it for yourself too. Do it for yourself. Don't uh,
Yeah.
don't give up on that. So what do? You write another book?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and that's one of the questions I have. So a lot of the folks who tune into this show are trauma survivors, are folks who are
Yeah.
looking
Yes.
like for a hand to hold and how to, and so many of them, I see this so often, particularly on the Facebook page, where they want to share their truths, they want to share their stories, and so many times they feel, I don't know, guilt that they don't want to put their ugly truths out into the world, or their family doesn't want them to put it out into the world. But I know, like, is writing cathartic for you? Is putting these stories, and it doesn't have to be necessarily a memoir, like you were talking about, creating these beautiful characters and stories in your books, in your novels.
It's more a feeling of accomplishment when I do it, and satisfaction and accomplishment than actually catharsis. I found when I wrote my memoir, it was about a very traumatic period of my life, and I and I guess that was one where people said, "Well, did you find it cathartic?" And I said, "Well," and I say it now, actually, I don't know, something about trying to get at the truth, right? That's really about difficult, and but to write about difficult things, you feel difficulty. You feel the same you repeat those emotions, and it's hard to go back there. Um, but and Some people ask me about that book, and I said it's the worst book I ever wrote because I was trying to be true all the time, and um, so I, I would say satisfying. I find it satisfying, but I don't know if about cathartic. I don't feel like. I guess I do feel joy, but it's not. I'm not like joyous.
Right, right.
I'm,
Yeah,
but there's a certain joy in creating characters and stories. And when a story unfolds, usually it can happen by surprise because you're right, and suddenly I'm sitting there and say, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. So that's a great moment, right? But I'm I'm pretty tough on myself about admitting my emotions, and a lot of that has to do with the trauma I went through. I had to be very stoical to get through it, um, and then very forgiving of myself for the mistakes I made that contributed to that. And so,
yeah.
yeah,
I think,
it was hard. It was hard to do, and harder to write, trying to come close to the truth. And uh, and besides, it's again we're talking about the essence again, because when Hemingway was early on writing, and when he wrote a lot of nonfiction, which I think is better than his fiction. I read all of him, Hemingway, but he says you can't write the truth. You have to create something to try to get at the truth. You don't write down the truth, and that's yeah. There's a lot of
yeah.
there's a lot of crummy stuff you can say about Hemingway, but he's good. He's a good writer.
Yeah. Oh, that's powerful and true.
Yeah.
Because again, it's probably why it's taken me 11 years to, still working on my memoir, because when I have sat down and tried to write the truth, it's when what I talked about earlier, it's when I just free flow write it and then read it and go, oh, where'd that come from?
Yeah.
Because then that's it, just, blossoming, right? And coming, that truth
No.
coming up.
And
Yeah.
I think writing certainly has done that, permitted me, to again forgive myself for my mistakes, and or the people you hurt. Um,
Yeah.
uh, and some of them, people die, and then you don't get to recompense that. You don't get to say you're sorry, right?
Right.
Which is and sometimes it's impossible. Sometimes you can't confront the person in front of you with what you did, that's not part of the conversation anymore. So you just forgive. And but
That's so amazing. I'm finishing up a manuscript. There's just a little fun little project that I was doing just for fun, like just a short little book. And I said, so it's called How to Hug a Ghost, a Forgiveness Journey. And so
good
I
one.
love it that you're talking about forgiveness because it is about those people that have passed, or people that are gone, or people that you didn't have. It doesn't even have to be like necessarily that they're dead, but that you didn't have an opportunity to go on that forgiveness journey with them. Yeah. So it's been such a wonderful project for me to learn and research and, you know, the different ways of forgiveness. But yeah, forgiveness of ourselves, very powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and forgive the people around you.
Yeah.
Uh, that you
Yeah,
can
for sure.
and because they're struggling too. They're overcoming their trauma.
Yeah.
And and all the great teachers have said that. Buddha, Jesus, they've all said that. Um, and they're right.
Right. They kind of knew what they were talking about.
They kind of did.
I love it. I love it. Let me
So
check on our
yeah,
time. Oh my gosh, it's 6:40. Holy moly. Well, we've been talking for a while. So I certainly wanted to give you an opportunity to maybe talk about anything that you wanted to talk
can I
about.
show you my
Oh
book?
yeah.
Here's my
Yeah.
book, Awake Forever in a Sweet Unrest. It's my latest book. And my website is chuckrosenthal.com. That's simple. And that's where you can find me and my other 19 books. And so that's what I came here to do.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you for sharing it. Yeah. So if you wanted to see it, folks, go to the YouTube version. You can see the book cover. And so
Okay.
all of your books are available Amazon, Barnes and Noble,
Yeah, and or
booksellers.
any of the indie publishers that are around there now. And you just go to the website and can order it, and
Oh,
it'll probably they'll probably send you to Amazon. Um,
yeah.
I don't know, and people are I know a lot of people are upset about because Amazon is so big and so powerful, but boy,
Yeah.
sure have the stuff, you know.
Yeah. But you know what? It's fun to go to the little indie bookstores and ask. And a lot
Yep,
of times they're willing to order in,
yep,
books if,
yep,
if
yeah.
they don't
Now
have them.
they can even print up right there. Some of
Oh,
they have machines that can print the book. You name the book, and they can print it for you right in front of your face.
oh my gosh, that's really cool. I didn't know that.
I think it's called espresso. Yeah, but
Wow. I love it. I love it. Well, it's just been fascinating talking to you. I've learned so much and thank you for being here.
well, thanks
And
for having me. I appreciate it, and I waited for a while because I know you have a busy schedule, and so
yeah,
it's
I booked out like right now I'm booked out 6 months, and
that.
I hate turning people away because I want to have everybody on the show, obviously, but yeah, I've had to keep turning so many people away over the past few weeks that have been reaching out, and I'm like, I'm out 6 months, so wait and reach back out and in end of summer, we'll get you in. So,
Well, I was online. I saw what you do. It's good stuff.
oh, thank you.
You do good things, and so I understand your success and appreciate it. Um,
Yeah, well, and same to you, like just absolutely beautiful. And thank you for, I don't know, just shining a light in the world. To me, that's just such a gift, and artistry to be able to put these beautiful, to help us take us to another world, another place. When you were talking earlier about reading 6 books at a time, now I can't do this now in my 50s, but back in the day, at one point I had 19 books on my nightstand,
okay.
and I had at least read, maybe even started like the intro just to see what the book was about.
Oh,
And
of course,
so
yes,
people
yes.
people would be like, how can you read that many? And I love what you said about, what did you say? You have a great memory,
Short attention span, but
short attention span.
good
Yeah. And I
memory.
was like,
Yeah. So I can pick up right where I left off. I've
yeah,
been reading Proust for years, because there's a lot of there.
yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, I just, a couple of pages a day, in 4 or
Sure.
5 years, we read thousands of pages. So,
And sometimes I would be in the mood for a self-help book, and then other times I'd be in the mood for fiction. And sometimes I'd be in the mood for like a mystery, like whatever. I would just be like,
no,
ooh, what am I gonna pick today?
absolutely,
I
absolutely.
love it. I love it. Well, again, it's just been such a joy. Thank you for being here,
Thank you
and
for having me, Teri.
awesome. All
All
right.
right.
Well, everyone, thanks for joining us today on the Healing Place podcast. And remember, until next time, be gentle with yourself. Thanks. Bye-bye.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
Hey, everybody. Teri Wellbrock here. Just wanted to thank you again for being a part of this healing space and my hashtag Hope for Healing journey. Thank you for sharing, liking, inviting others to join, listening in. You've really helped this show blossom. It has now been downloaded in 136 countries and is in the top 2% globally out of 3.2 million shows, which is just amazing. And it's all because of you and your tuning in and inviting others and sharing and liking and loving. And your reviews on Apple really help too. My goal is to hit 100 5-star reviews by the end of the year. And I am closing in on that. So if you are listening in on Apple or Apple Podcasts, please go and rate the show and leave a review if you absolutely love it. And I would be most appreciative. Also, if you would like to receive my monthly Hope for Healing newsletter, please be sure to go to teriwellbrock.com. It's Teri, just one R, WELLBROCK.com. And I have a gift to send you for signing up for that monthly Hope for Healing newsletter. Plus, there are many other resources listed on that page, including a resource library. All right. Thanks. Bye-bye.